If it takes 100 things to feel normal, are you really optimized? Or are you just highly managed? If your health routine is a second job, are you actually hacking? Or are you just spack filling over the cracks? Welcome to the Mind Body Guide podcast, powered by the Human Efficiency Method. Well, high performers learn to operate at full capacity without losing themselves in the process, so they can feel better, think clearer, perform higher without crashing. Because output is revenue, but efficiency is profit. And true high performance is maximum output with minimum internal cost. I'm Levi Walz, founder of the Human Efficiency Method. Now, wellness is a multi-trillion-dollar economy, and biohacking is booming. Supplements, peptides, wearables, sleep stacks, longevity clinics, hormone protocols, red light, cold plunges, scans, trackers. The whole market is exploding. And I think there's a real clear reason, because people can feel the cost of modern life. Our physical load has never been lower, but our mental load has never been higher. Emergency medicine has never been better, but holistic health, let's be honest, it's never been more conflicted, confusing, or commercialized. So people are constantly asking, what can I add? What can I track? What can I inject? What can I supplement? What can I optimize? But like I say to all of my clients, we can't lie to our bodies. Life is the ultimate litmus test, and pretty much all shortcuts only fool ourselves. So today we're going to dive into a very nuanced discussion about biohacking. If you take a supplement, peptide, or medication to override a symptom you don't want, are you listening to your body? Or are you simply avoiding an underlying truth that you don't understand or that you aren't ready to hear? Are the protocol of biohackers like Brian Johnson and Andrew Huberman actually helping when it comes to moving the needle on people's health and performance? Or are they instead doing very little, or even worse, harming health and performance? Today we are running the human efficiency lens over biohacking. In my opinion, human efficiency asks a very different question, a question that nobody else thinks to add. Instead of asking, what can I add to improve? We ask, why has the human become so expensive to run? So please don't tune into this if you're looking for a black and white answer or confirmation to any beliefs. So let's get started. And right off the bat, let's get it very clear. I am not anti-biohacking. In fact, I own a reverse aging company. For most of my career, at least 15 years of this 26 years, I was obsessed with metabolic pathways. I would go into every single pathway of every client and supplement all cofactors. Sometimes they would take so many supplements they would rattle as they walked. I'm still looking for cutting edge processes, frameworks, implementations that can optimize my clients in every possible way. But these days I'm asking better questions, deeper questions, ones that optimize the human system, in my opinion, far more than standard biohacking. Now, the main question that we ask when we biohack is, what can I do? What can I add to help me further? What can I, is this helping or hurting me? Can I do something better? What is the number one protocol to improve my sleep, or to get rid of this skin issue, or to improve my energy, right? But what we don't ask is this process heightening or adding cost to my system? Or is this process hiding any insight or impairing my ability to listen into my system? And these are incredibly important questions. So let's have a look at the first one, which is standard, right? Is this helping or hurting? Oh, this is the better protocol. Oh, this sleep stack is better. This stack is better. I want to make the best decision so that I'm getting the most out of what I'm spending. Now let's look at number two, heightening. Am I adding cost? How much cost is being added to my system to follow this protocol? If I'm having to meditate 2 hours a day just to regulate and force my system into feeling calm, is that helping or is it hindering me? Is it making, It gets me present. It brings my anxiety down, which is fantastic. But is the protocol itself adding to my overall cost, and is it therefore benefiting? And even most importantly, is it hiding the actual information I should be trying to listen to within my system? Why am I needing that 2 hours of meditation every day? Or why am I needing to take 6 different supplements just to get to sleep? Like, think about that. Imagine how many areas, and I have this happen all the time, where clients will come in that have been on a Huberman stack or something, and they're spending $250 a month just for sleep, and it's not even working. But that's not to do with anything else in their body, just for that one process. That's heightening cost, right? One, it's costing me money. 2, my body has to metabolize all these things. I've probably got very expensive whey. I'm having to think about taking the supplements. I'm having to remember those things. I'm having to have the bandwidth to understand that. And then what is that hiding? What is, like, if, and this is very clear for me, if I've got a sleep issue, what is my system trying to tell me? Why is it creating that sleep issue? Not, I've got something that I don't want, but why? Rather than looking at the system like it's a victim, what is its elegant solution here? Because I promise you, there is always an elegant solution. Or when I say promise you, human efficiency, or the human efficiency system, says there is always an elegant solution, and that the body is always searching to come up with a solution for you, and it's adapting. It is changing itself to meet demands. And we want to be looking at not rather what don't I want, but what adaptation is being created, and how can I remove the need for the body to change at all and just simply address what it's coming up against. I'll give you an example. Think about a company right now, and this happens to so many companies, and obviously I work with high performers, so I'm dealing with a lot of CEOs, a lot of entrepreneurs, and one of the things that we all, and I've done this many times as well, is we get a bottleneck and we chuck more money, more staff at a problem, right? So all of a sudden my underlying expenses go up. So even though my revenue might increase, my profit drops. And then I add more staff and I get overwhelmed and I don't have the bandwidth to think about this. So I add more staff and more staff. One of the greatest, most recent examples of this is Elon Musk, right? Remember, and I don't know the exact stats, but he came in and he just basically cut 75% of staff. The Twitter looked very successful on the outside, but when he broke it down, it was like hemorrhaging money. It was not a successful company and being propped up by a lot of government stuff, etc. He just went shunk, cut it. All of a sudden, bang. And now I've got a lean machine that I can grow with. It had just bloated and bloated. And that's what's happening to the way people treat their health. They just keep adding. Some people are, 2 hours just to get to sleep. I've got to dim the lights. I've got to pull off tech. I've got to listen to, no one can stress me out. I need to do all these things just to get to sleep. When our system is running efficiently, we lay down on the pillow, bang, we fall asleep. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to think anything. We just live, right? It's the same as my body. My body, as we've talked about last podcast, I shouldn't have to do what I used to have to do and trigger point every muscle stretch, fascia roll, etc., just to be able to feel good. I should just be able to live. I shouldn't have to think about my body. It should just be. And if something goes out of whack, instead of me trying to force it back in, which I used to, right? Oh, my foot's pronating. Let's fix that up. Not, I wonder why that is. Or, my neck's so sore and stiff, or my jaw won't open. Oh, I'm going to release all these muscles. That's great. It's great that we're doing something. Most people don't. But why? Why is the system creating that? It's never going to do anything unless it needs to, unless it feels like it is the solution it wants. High performers, we are really subject to being obsessed with biohacking, right? We're super attracted to it because we are constantly, growth is like our lifeblood. We want to constantly be getting better. We never want to go backwards. We're always pushing to get more. We don't want to let anyone down. We never want to fail. We want to take on all the responsibility and never ask for help. So anything that can optimize us, anything that can improve us, anything that can hide our weakness or make us better or help us rise in the tribe further. And we seem to be attracted to, the more extreme, or the thing that's going to be the fastest result, the one that's going to get us more for less, which is, it's a really great thing about humans. We want to get the greatest result for the least amount of work, which is fantastic. It helps us in many ways, but it can hold us back as well. So, we love the messages of Brian Johnson, Huberman, like how many people have followed the Liver King, where like, this is natural. I'm going to take this fad. This is why high performers fall for so many fads. We want to biohack. We want to do the best practices to get the best result, to be the best version of ourselves. But sometimes we can miss the actual message. So let's have a look at some of these guys. Brian Johnson, right? Like his discipline's impressive. The amount of money he spends on himself, his focus to be the best he can be is admirable. He reportedly spends $2 million a year. He takes 100 supplements a day, if you believe what everyone says. Strict food timing, extreme measurements, constant optimization, right? It's very expensive. From a human efficiency side of things, we say, like, what does it cost to maintain this? And is he getting the results from spending all that money, all that time, all that focus? Is his life optimized? What about Huberman? I respect his work. He brings science to the masses. His memory is incredible. His protocols, I see a lot of people that come to me on his protocols. A lot of times, and this is where I spent a lot of my career in the metabolic pathway, you get very bloated protocols. So things that are focusing just on symptoms. I want to handle this, and I'm going to put this in here because this fixes this protocol and this pathway, and I'm going to cover that as well. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with 10 different supplements to hit 10 different symptoms, but you're missing the underlying message. And, I see the same pattern with everyone who comes in to see me, not because of his protocols, but, I see a lot of high performers, and, most of them are listening to his podcasts all the time, following his protocol. His protocol is supporting pathways, but not really understanding the system or the adaptation or the reason why the system created the adaptation in the first place. And so I believe we can let's just continue on. Now, with Brian Johnson recently, and I want to be very, very clear, his recent autoimmune diagnosis, I think it was gastritis or something in the stomach. We want to be really clear that we're not celebrating his disease in any way. In fact, highly empathetic. Imagine putting that much money, time, effort, and your reputation on this, and then feeling like, wow, like what's the whole point, I guess, right? In my opinion, it really opens up a very important conversation around, is he optimized? Is Brian Johnson optimized, or is he just really, really expensive? And like, can you track, supplement, scan, optimize, control every marker to the nth degree, but miss the whole point, miss the entire message the system is trying to talk to you completely? Like, when we talk from a human efficiency point of view, an autoimmune disease is never random. It's a system choice, an elegant choice, and it's never ever the first choice. It is one of the end range choices after the system has spoken up many, many times but been ignored. The underlying adaptations, the underlying need has been ignored. And this is where I guess I lean into, and I wanted to highlight around one of the H's. I can hide a lot of things by biohacking, right? If I've got huge amount of inflammation, I can take BP157, which, it's going to signal a lot of angiogenesis, and I'm going to reduce a lot of inflammation. But why was that inflammation there in the first place, right? I can optimize lots of things, and I'll get to this, or maybe I'll touch on it now. Let's have a look at some of these optimizations. What about testosterone, right? I can get a low testosterone score, and I can take testosterone, which is going to shut down. It's an end range implementation, which I always speak against. The best thing about peptides is it's a signal right before, so it's helping signal to the body to go and make that. When I give you testosterone, the body just shuts down its natural production, right? And there's a lot of side effects. But let's move on from that. Let's say I take testosterone. I've got it low, I take it, it bumps back up, and now I'm in range. And we're like, you beauty, I've fixed the problem. Maybe, or have I just hidden the symptom? Have I just addressed the symptom, and was the problem, I just didn't want low testosterone, or I didn't want low muscle mass, or I didn't want a low sex drive, or whatever, I didn't want to be out of range. But why? Why did I have low testosterone, right? If I'm not taking charge of anything, and I'm not lifting extra heavy, and I don't lead my family, and I'm being beaten down by my wife, and I'm being, beaten down by my boss, and I'm never standing up for me, and I'm not taking life by the balls, what do I need all this extra testosterone for? Is my body it could just be optimizing? And one of the things about the body is it is the ultimate efficiency maker, right? Like if I don't drink, it will stop making alcohol dehydrogenase and just cuts it down. If I stop eating meat, my stomach acid's going to reduce. It doesn't waste energy doing anything it doesn't need. And so if you listen in and watch, you can always tell 100%, I believe anyway, what the body's asking for, what the system needs. If it's decided to drop testosterone massively, maybe, there's multiple reasons, but that's an example. What about high cholesterol, right? I can take a statin and bring my cholesterol down into range, but it's like, you beauty, now the doctor doesn't want me to, he said I'm okay. But what is the cholesterol doing? There are so many possible reasons, right? I talked about SPAC filling before, but cholesterol's actually acting like an antioxidant in some stages, or it is. It's going over and SPAC filling all the damage from the inflammation in your body, in your blood vessels. So is the issue that there's cholesterol, like if I stop the cholesterol from going there, the inflammation's still there. So I've made things worse. There's lots of studies, science coming out even more and more these days, but it's pretty much been around for 25 years, at least that I know of anyway, is that people with the higher cholesterol levels live longer. Is it really as bad as what we're talking about, right? And also, what does cholesterol create? You can't create one hormone without cholesterol, right? Cholesterol, pregnenolone, hormones. Outside of every cell is cholesterol. If I don't eat any cholesterol, my liver makes as much as I need. If I have too much, it reduces the amount. So it's pretty damn important. And it's pretty crazy. It's definite standard Western medicine to go, well, we know exactly what's going on. We know everything here. I'm just going to override that signal and I'm going to give you a drug that not just brings cholesterol down, so you're already screwing. Imagine, I like to use this example, like you're digging a hole and your body's digging a hole and you take a statin, you're just basically grabbing a shovel and putting the dirt back in the hole. You're basically screwing yourself over. But that doesn't even talk about how that statin will shut down your electron transport chain, which is where you get the majority of your energy, your ATP, right? Especially from oxidation, so fat burning. And so, like this is why something like a CoQ10 is so important. And if someone is dumb enough, or not dumb enough, take that back. If someone has been convinced or is unaware of the side effects of these statins, they need to be taking a CoQ10 at an absolute minimum. What about high blood pressure? I don't want this high blood pressure. I'm scared that it's going to be creating inflammation. These two go together a lot, right? Let's just bring that down. But why? Why is the blood pressure high? This is so important to know because the system is going, I'm raising this for a reason. Now you're going to artificially lower it, but it wants it high. So what's it going to do? Do you think it's just going to, is it just like, oh, sorry, I won't do this again? If that worked, we'd never have anxiety, right? Because you'd just say, hey, don't be anxious. And the body would go, oh, sorry, my silly me. I give it a medication, I bring it down, but I wanted it high for a reason. What are the reasons? Well, I don't know. There's so many different reasons. I'm not going to go through them all here, but the system is now going to go, well, you've stopped, you've blocked. If I want to go down a road here and you've got the road closed, I'm going to take a detour. So I'm going to do something different to get the same result, right? So I've gone a little bit round in a tangent here. That's what I do sometimes. Some people love that. I enjoy it when someone's going on here. But I like to look at health, or the way that we treat health, through 4 different layers of treatment, right? Now, the first one is just what I've talked about here, treating the symptom. So it's just like suppressing the symptom, overriding the symptom. I've got a headache, take headache medication. I've got a sore knee, I'm going to take Voltaren, right? Now, in short doses, it's not a bad idea, right? If I've got a sore knee for one day, take it down, get through the day it hurts, and then address it properly. But my headache isn't because of a deficiency in Panadol, right? My knee pain isn't a deficiency in Nurofen or any of these drugs to reduce my pain. But when we want something urgent enough, right? If I'm not thinking globally and I'm not thinking long term, same issue that happens in my finances. If I'm addressing things now and not how will this look in 10 years, I'm going to be living week to week most likely, right? If I'm addressing my health by what can I do right now to stop this pain, I'm going to make some choices that are going to make my body worse, right? If I'm going to keep using anti-inflammatories, my gut's going to be screwed, my joints are going to be screwed, because I'm going to keep, one of the things that the system is saying, if you've got inflammation in your joint, is can you stop moving that? And you're like, shut up, I've got to keep running through that, right? And I create more. This is another example of that H word, hiding. Are some of my biohacks hiding? If I put something on my wrist and my elbow and my knee as I'm running or playing sport, and then I'm rubbing, anti-inflammatories, taking anti-inflammatory tablets, injecting different peptides in there, am I biohacking, or am I just ignoring the deeper message the body is sending? I would suggest potentially. You know what I'm suggesting. Now, level 2, it's better than that, is treating the problem area. So I've got a headache, maybe I will massage the head, or I've got a knee pain, I'll release the outside, muscles that are tight potentially. Normally the front and lateral muscles are tight, the inner and back posterior muscles are normally weak. I might strengthen those. So I'm actually treating it. And this is where I'd say majority of therapists around the world treat, if they're not a symptom blocker. They'll treat level 1 and level 2. What you're looking for is someone that treats in level 3, which is what I call optimizing the system. So they'll say, oh, the headache, how about we address stress? What about your hydration? Oh, how's your jaw come together? What's the inflammation like in your system? We're going to address everything as one and treat all of those things. Your knee pain, I'm going to address your hip, I'm going to look at your feet, I'm going to look at your core, your slings, I'm going to look at your fascia, I'm going to look at your hydration, I'm going to look at your protein, I'm going to look at everything, right? That's where I spent most of my career. I'd put myself in that top echelon of system 3, optimizing the system professionals. Now, where human efficiency sits is what I call level 4, addressing the system adaptation. So the question is, why did the system create that in the first place? We will address certain symptoms, but we'll do it from a place of not trying to reduce the symptom. We will look at where the adaptations came, why the body had to adapt, and what can I do to reverse that adaptation while listening to the system needs and supporting the system, not trying to force the system into a result that it actually doesn't want. It can be quite scary. Level 4, when we approach health, life from a human efficiency point of view, and level 4, it is scary because it removes randomness. It says symptoms are not random. They are responses, and they are elegant responses. It says the body's not stupid. It's solving an issue. It says the disease label is not the story. It is just the final expression of a system that has been adapting for a long time and making multiple adaptations. For most people, that's too confronting. That's too scary. But if you can get yourself past this, and when I say that, I feel like I'm speaking only to high performers. I don't think anyone else is going to listen to this podcast. My estimation is about 15% of people are high performers, and another 35% are what I call hidden high performers. So they have all the traits, all the necessary, but there's certain adaptations that have been made in their system that are stopping them from really leaning into their full potential. And then there's another 50% of people that I don't speak to, that are always going to just take medications, take the easy road. They don't really add a lot of responsibility to their life. Amazing people, but just not designed for this conversation. Now, for the other 50%, the 15 and the 35, it's still a very confronting way to look at life, especially if you're suffering from things already. But it's also super empowering because it says, I can impact this. In fact, the way that I look at everything, and remember, when I treat a client, I never treat disease, never treat a disease at all. I just treat cost. I treat inefficiency. I treat adaptations, and I reverse those adaptations. And as we do that, it just so happens that most of the diseases, or the things that people call diseases or symptoms or whatever they want to label or etc., they reverse and they remove. And the system goes, oh, thank you for helping support me. I don't need to give you that anymore, right? Because when the need is gone, the system has never done anything that isn't to its greatest benefit ever. Ever. It's never done anything that isn't to its benefit. So when you remove the need for that symptom to be highlighted or for that expression to be expressing, it is removed. And to me, that is true biohacking, right? True biohacking. So in going through those 4 layers, what I realized was there was sort of 3 main things I was doing that were stopping me from creating a highly efficient system. And the first one was victimizing the system. Like I was, for many, many years, treating the system as a victim rather than the elegant conductor it is. So it was like, this has happened to you, you've had to manage it, and I'm going to fix it for you. That real sort of, I will bring it back, rather than, no, you are being met with a challenge. A lot of the times you're doing a great job in addressing it and not having to adapt at all. But right now you don't have what you need, and you are adapting as elegantly as you know how. And you are doing this for a specific reason, and I'm going to trust that, right? Secondly, and this is something that I've done for, as you've learned in the last podcast, even last year, from a physical, structural point of view, I've spent 26 years forcing my system to not pronate, to have great posture, to open the jaw evenly without dropping and going to the side. Everything was forced to not over contract my pec, for my scalenes to not over contract it, all the things, everything, the psoas. I was forcing the system to do what I wanted because I didn't like the side effects of the pain or the fatigue or the limitation in rotation or the limitation in performance or speed or power, but I was forcing the system. Now what I do is identify why the system has created that, listen in, look at the timeline and the adaptation, and then I support the removal, but I don't remove it. So I give the body what it needs, or give the system what it needs to no longer need that adaptation. And when you do that, it is so much more intelligent than me, than anybody, I believe. It is insanely elegant and intuitive, and when it doesn't need to create I don't know if you can see this, but since 2012, and was it 2026 now, my left arm, I couldn't get it any further back than my hip. Now I can go right up my back again easily. Like this, it might seem small, but in the past, I would have done acupuncture, physio, rotated everything. I would have forced my body to release that. And I've done that with winging on my right side. I spent a couple of years teaching the scapula not to wing. I didn't do any of that. I just listened in. I saw where the body needed to create that restriction, to create more protection. And then I removed the need, and the body just did the rest itself. And as it starts to unwind and release, it's such a more elegant way to go about it. And when you do it with the body, you are now working in word I'm looking for. You are cooperating. You're working in balance with the system. You know, it's a real relationship. And that's the last one is I realized that I wasn't really trusting the system to do it. It was like, no, I need to do this. I need to force this. You're not capable, or you're dumb, or you're not, etc. I will make you do what I want you to do. And a lot of learning. And so when I get back to this, I want to sort of, I guess, take a lot of ownership. I don't want to come from this place where I'm just saying biohacking and this way when we treat symptoms. I've done it. I did it for many, many years. Like I said, my clients rattled. I was forcing their changes, constantly adding more. Like sometimes it'd be like, the same deal. The thing that I accuse human of, I've done. Maybe that's why it annoys me so much. But it's like, hey, here's $500. I need you to spend that. And even worse, for the first part of my career, because initially when you're, especially like say, IBS patients, like I would have treated over 1,000 IBS patients at least. And I would say at least 95% of them, it's not even a digestive issue, right? That's just where it's showing up, where the system is presenting this for the type of strategy within that. But I would, initially, what would happen is I would reset the gut, which is doing more than just, a standard dietitian, which is just, getting you on a FODMAP thing, removing the cause or the current irritation, and then the symptom goes down. But what happens is that only works for a little bit, and the system goes, but that's not what I was asking. And so then it creates a new irritation. And what happens is you end up just chasing your diet because that person loves the control of being able to focus on that normally. A very specific type of personality that gets IBS. But we chase it until we're eating chicken, pear without the skin, rice. It's very, very, very limited food, you know what I mean? And then, like I was doing other stuff, restoring the gut, taking so many protocol. Now, at the moment, I will only use high levels of treatment protocol in what I call a treatment phase, because when we are aiming to support the system, I'll have either a treatment or a maintenance phase. Now, the job is to get to what I call the MVP, which is a development term, but in human efficiency, it's the minimal viable prescription. So the least amount, it sounds lazy, but human efficiency is not about how much can I do to optimize. It's how little can I do to feel the absolute best. How little can I have to, I want to do the least amount of exercise to look the best, to feel the best, to have the most energy, to be the most flexible, to be the best person I can be. And then if I want to, I can just do it when I want. Most people exercise because if I don't exercise, I'm going to put on weight, and they're using it like a seesaw or a punishment. I don't want to have to do 2 hours of meditation a day. Now, if I'm going through a huge challenge right now, I might want to add some meditation because it's a skill and it's a tool I can throw at this right while life is throwing me a huge challenge and I just need a little extra help. But I don't want to have to do it every day, or my sleep routine. I'm going through a lot at the moment. Thank you for keeping me up all the time, right? It's doing it for a purpose, but I want to get more sleep. So I'm going to optimize things, but I don't want to have to spend 2 hours every night making everyone in my household so anxious because, get the TV off, get the sounds down. What are you doing with the bright lights? And I don't want to minimize that, but you can see how much cost that adds, right? So when we're in a treatment phase, we will go hard not to minimize the symptom, but to support the adaptation layer, to remove that adaptation at the place it needs. Once that's removed, or once the body has shown that it doesn't need it anymore, pull it out, get rid of it, do as little as possible. We want to take as few supplements as possible. This is why I always genetic test my clients, not because I'm trying to get them another test. And testing is very important, but we're looking for the weak links in their chain genetically, the ones that deep down say that, hey, hold on, based on the research, this is where you potentially don't work as well as other people. And this is somewhere, so instead of having to supplement everything, which it can get so much, right? Like say a probiotic. Most people that are in health are going, well, I need a probiotic every day. No. Your system should be able to have an amazing gut health and great skin and great serotonin creation and beautiful poos without a probiotic. But is a probiotic needed for a out of balance system? Yes. So we need to look at the layer. Why is the system struggling to keep gut health? And why is it expressing it? Maybe it's not even struggling. Why is it choosing to express some symptoms in the gut right now? Or is it not in the gut and we're going here and we're just dealing with the gut? But you can go through and you look at all the supplements everyone wants to take. I want to minimize that to as little as possible, as little interventions as possible, so you just get to live your life. Then we go down another tangent where we go, hold on, biohacking really is another distraction, isn't it? Like, we are so clever as humans, Netflix helps me just zone out of life, right? Online shopping, gambling, drugs, alcohol, social media, pain. I've talked about this last podcast. Pain for many people is a distraction from what I'm really trying to avoid. Biohacking, growth. One of my biggest addictions was work. For many years, biohacking was another one. Pain was another one. I am definitely not addiction-free, or was definitely not addiction-free. Many ones. Very, very grateful that I didn't go into some of the more toxic addictions. But biohacking is definitely one. Distract. Optimize. Ignore. And that's where we get to that whole H word again. What am I hiding by constantly micromanaging different biomarkers and not listening to the system? I mean, even spending $2 million a year, 100 supplements a day, you have ignored the system's needs so much that your body has had to create an autoimmune disease just to hopefully get you to listen. Now, my fear for Brian is that he's already so far down there. What I believe will happen is he'll now focus on this, either do something medically or with supplements, peptides, etc., and he'll solve that specific issue or get those markers back down to within a range. But because when I'm a hammer, everything is a nail, I'm going to keep going in that same process. And in my experience over my 26 years of treating all levels of human system operation, I was going to say disease, but I don't treat disease. I look at the system operation and the adaptations, like I said, but I've seen it from all layers, from a huge adaptation, which with very expensive systems that have just had to shut down their full capacity and they're barely alive, to early adaptations as well. But when we don't listen to a signal as deep and strong as an autoimmune disease, the system is only going to come back with a deeper, more critical adaptation later. So I hope this is the message. Sometimes we get a message that's scary enough for us to question everything we've been doing, and that's what I would most likely hope that happens. But a lot of times, because of the blinders that we've got on, or the fact that we are a hammer looking for a nail, we miss that. What are some other adaptations? There's so many I can talk about. Talked about ACE inhibitors, talked about cholesterol, iron injections, right? Like, how many people go in and get iron injections? They go up, the body goes, thanks a lot. Now I've got it's an expense to have to eliminate all of that. Yep, it looks good. I'm in the markers. I've got high iron now. I had low iron. Great job. Oh, but I'm still exhausted. Oh, it's not the iron. Now, a couple of months later, I've got low iron again. Let's just keep going through that. And I have to feel the horrible side effects of those constant injections. What about high estrogen premenopausally? Or there's so many different layers I can go here, but taking soy isoflavones or things that are to reduce that high estrogen level. The question is, why is the body creating the excess estrogen in the first place, right? Is it just random? Is the body just going, whoops, or is it just unable to, it's got a mistake? Or is it an elegant solution trying to adapt to something for you, to try and improve and trying to overcome something to help you? And are we just not listening in? You know what I mean? Now, I've used soy isoflavones and I've used phytoestrogens in many, many supplements, herbals, foods to help that process premenopausally to reduce estrogen imbalances and postmenopausally to help buffer it up a little bit when someone's had a big drop and they're getting all these symptoms, right? We can add that into our diet and it becomes no extra effort to our body. So it's running quite efficiently, but we still want to double check always. Are we hiding? Are we hiding? Are we hiding? Are we heightening? Are we adding cost? Are we adding cost? Or is this, discipline? Discipline's incredible, right? But it's a big cost. Habits are so much more efficient than discipline. But if I need discipline all the time and I don't want to diss on discipline, if I'm needing discipline in every area of my life, I'm going to have no energy, because a habit, you don't even have to think of it. Discipline, you're overriding and forcing. And again, I was the ultimate king of discipline, the ultimate king of systems, of forcing myself to do things. Everything was hard. Everything was forced. Everything, so much bandwidth, so much stress, so much. There's a better way, right? There's a better way. So I guess I'll finish with this. Is that everything I want to cover? I think it's everything I want to cover. Please feel free to reach out, ask any questions if you feel like I've missed anything, just sort of rolling around. But you can force numbers, you can control inputs, you can optimize markers, you can manage food, sleep, supplements, light, scans, routines, treatments, discipline, optimization, but you cannot force the body into efficiency. If cost is still present, the system will keep reporting it somewhere. It'll report it in your sleep. It'll report it in your pain, in your mood, in your hormones, in your emotional capacity, in your inflammation, your digestion, your immune system. It will report it somewhere, I guarantee. And the mistake is treating each new expression as the problem, as the symptom, and I just need to shut that symptom down. I don't want that. That is the problem. We should be asking the system why it needs to express this, right? You can't force your body into efficient. You can't force your body into being more efficient, or efficiency is what I meant to say. You can only assist it into lowering the cost. So again, double confirm for everyone who's unable to hear the nuance in what I'm saying, or if I've miscommunicated the nuance, it's not black and white. I am not, hand on my heart, anti-biohacking. Like I said, I run an anti-aging supplement program company. I optimize the protocol of every one of my high-performing clients. I'm not anti-supplement, not anti-testing. One of my favorite phrases is, don't guess test. I test accurately, but I want to read it, not from this isn't what I want. Why is the system? I'm not anti-medicine. Use it. I use all of them. I'm not anti-peptides when they're used correctly, when they're managed correctly for the right reason. They just need to be used inside the right operating model, in my opinion. If the tool lowers cost, it's useful. If the tool adds cost, it needs to be questioned. And if the tool hides cost, it can become very dangerous. So biohacking asks, what can I add? Whereas human efficiency asks, why has the human become so expensive to run? Remember, output is revenue, efficiency is profit. And a high output human with high internal cost, I do not believe that is optimized living, optimized function, and I do not believe you is peak performance. It's just high management. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Hit me with any questions. I look forward to talking to you next week. Bye.